Welcome to the paper Machete. Well, Kansas was in the national news this week. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case involving the Westboro Baptist Church of Topeka, which has used its First Amendment rights in recent years to protest the military funerals of fallen Iraq War soldiers to promote the idea that these casualties are actually God's punishment of America for harboring homosexuals. And I know it's a little illogical to think that God is killing our soldiers in Iraq as a punishment for America's tolerance of gay people when we've made it quite clear that the one place we don't want gay people is serving in Iraq. But don't forget that God also hates people on food stamps for deregulating the banks. So, you know, park on the driveway, drive on a parkway. It's a crazy world. Since they're kind of a hot topic right now, I feel like we should clear up a couple of things about the Westboro Baptist Church. First, it should be noticed that the Westboro Baptist is not affiliated with the Baptist Church, nor with the Southern Baptists. That's only a misnomer. The West in Westboro, by the way, would imply that they're west of something, when in fact they're in the smack dab middle of the country. Kansas is not the American West. As for the borough in Westboro, well, if you think Topeka is like one of the boroughs, there's a bridge I'd like to sell you in Brooklyn. As a native Kansan, of course, I'm completely horrified by the Westboro Baptist Church crowd, and so are most of the people who live in Kansas, by the way, the vast majority of whom are Christian. In fact, in a small way, this movement is almost good for Kansas. I know that sounds crazy, but this group's behavior helps Kansans who might not want to think about it understand what homophobia looks like. On the other hand, it's also easy to oppose them publicly and give them money under the table, which also goes on. Obviously, someone is paying their attorney fees for this Supreme Court case. But even though this kind of extreme hate rhetoric is what will ultimately fuel the next civil rights movement in this country, it's still a big, stinky public relations skid mark on the tighty-whities of my home state. And this always happens when Kansas is in the national news. In 2005, the Kansas Board of Education voted to include intelligent design in the science curriculum in tandem with Darwinian theory. This would be less crushing if Kansas weren't topographically a rich bed of limestone fossils of all this kinky sea life from when it was under the ocean. I mean, it's one thing to say evolution is just a theory. In fact, technically, that's true. Evolution is just a theory, like gravity. It's another thing to insist that it's just a theory when you're living on top of the Studio 54 of the Mesozoic era. That creationism in schools decision was reversed a few years later, but you know how when the town slut finally cleans herself up, she's still just a girl who used to be the town slut? Whenever Kansas makes national headlines, I feel like I don't even know where I'm from. When you live there, you get used to quiet, humble, charitable Christians, and crazy, fanatical, violent Christians coexisting is a natural part of the landscape. And just like people who live in California can't spend every minute fearing the next earthquake, rational Kansans, and there are plenty of them, can't let the Westboro Baptist crowd get them down. And growing up watching this juxtaposition is how I came to learn that while this church's behavior is despicable, it's also carefully guarded by our First Amendment and should probably remain so.